of available funding outside UN, but you'll find that the first thing they will ask, do you have an organization that is set up? Yes. Do you have people? Do you have accountants? Do you have whatsoever, so that they know that they will trust the money that they are putting in? And we can't have those if we don't have that structural money to help with that, you know. So it's very essential that if at least UN, even if they cannot fund organizations to do projects, if I would say, but if they can help in strengthening them structurally so that they can be able to access themselves the funding that is available out there. What we face now is that when we go out there to get the funding, we are recognized internationally, but they will say, since you are small and you can't handle this amount of funds, you need to have a partner that has handled a lot of funds. And funds that and partners that we'll get are funds that are partners that do not handle issues that we handle ourselves. And they end up taking the money because they are the principal receiver of the money. And we end up not having even a cent. So that is one of the biggest challenges that is affecting the small and the direct TPOs. Yes.
Thank you very much, my brother. Capacity building for TPOs, very clear point. My brother, so will have. I realize we need more time, but yeah, which we don't.
Sorry for the time. I just want to emphasize on the existing Disability Act of 2018, guys, because this was the voice, this has been the voice of persons with disabilities, that without it be domesticated and be known and be operational, I think there is too little that we can do. There is as the president said it before, it's where many or all rights of persons with disabilities are contained. And if we can have it on place, because looking at this tool, this act, umthetho lonemnyaka lefana exactly nanangwa Dova sort of. But if you can imagine that in 2 years sort of is well known and is existing, but with this one. So if we can have this one, many of our challenges, can be solved, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. The president made the point, and I think it's been emphasized. We need to operationalize that Disability Act of 2018. That's the point. There is my last brother here, and I'll be out of here. Okay, to the interpreter, please.
Thank you so much. On point, on our question number 5. It is a big challenge, and we have a history on UN and the government support. My point is that we are so happy and we love the fact that UN is supporting the disability people, and UN, you are the best in our life. In our life, we love you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is the very nice way to end our discussion. We are also happy to be here as the UN, and at this stage, I'd possibly request Ms. Fanele to come back so that we can have the concluding session nicely wrapped up. Thank you very much for your participation. It has been great. I think as we are doing the dialogues, we are learning each time. So today I learned that possibly we need to make more time for this part of the discussion. So that's what we'll do. We will improve when we go to the next group. We did spend some time on COVID, which was important, but also we need to make time for this particular session. Thank you very much for your cooperation.
Thank you so much for your enthusiastic participation in this session. As we mentioned in the beginning, these dialogues are being held globally, and they're being submitted to the UN headquarters, and they're going to influence the UN75 General Assembly discussion that will be happening in September, which, as you may have heard, Eswatini is one of the vice presidents of this year's General Assembly. So these points are not just for us in the room, although we appreciate the feedback that was very direct to the UN, but it's also going to inform a global conversations, because I'm sure that the same issues that we're discussing, that we're facing in Eswatini, are global. And it's an opportunity to be part of that global conversation while we are engaging local actors to act or to consider the submissions that you have made today. We are winding up our agenda, and at this point, we would like to ask the sponsor president to make his vote of thanks remarks, and then we will have we'll have closing remarks from the resident coordinator. We are asking at the end of the speeches and the remarks to have a group picture, and for that, I'm going to ask my colleague, Erin Kennedy, who is going to direct us on how to pose, how to shape, how to say cheese, and all of that. But at this point, may I please ask Mr. Sipho Dlamini to come and say a few words of thanks on your behalf. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again. And thank you for everyone, to everyone for attending this dialogue. Let me forward our appreciations to the UN resident coordinator, Natalie Nongoshe. This has been quite a fruitful dialogue that we had today. And I appreciate that we all had contributions that have outlined the way that we feel the UN can assist in getting our movements. Because here we are different associations gathered together to talk about our challenges, our plights, and what we would love to see happening through the assistance of the United Nations. For and foremost, Ms. Ndongotse, it's that we appeal to the United Nations to consult with government, that it's ensured we have the Disability Act put in action. Because it is through the Disability Act that all the concerns that we've raised today can be mitigated. We've been marginalized for a long time as persons with disabilities and as persons with chronic diseases and other such challenges. So it would be wise that we put our hands together. We rally behind the United Nations as they engage government to ensure that our act is in place, because I'm very, very sure if the act is in place, all our challenges will be addressed. Because the issues of our representation in politics, it's in the act. Issues of medical attention, education, and all other such the challenges that we are faced today are contained in that document. So we would love to have that document put in action so that we can see how far it can take us, and if there are modifications or reviews that we would probably wish to put into this document in future, we'll do it whilst it is in action. So please, Ms. Ndongase, convey this to your principals, and let's have the government act on our Disability Act. And thank you very much once again. This has been a fruitful a dialogue that we had today. And let us again applaud the United Nations for making attempts to ensure that our welfare is well catered for. I've seen it happen. Ms. Ndongase, in the various meetings the humanitarian meetings that we often hold, is always on top of challenges that let's have persons with disabilities and the elderly looked after so that their welfare is well catered for. And thank you very much for that, Ms. Ndongase. And again, the United Nations has pledged to support disability, to assess the situation of persons with disabilities in the communities. And in a short while, we'll have some of you members of the various disability groups taking part in that voyage of checking on the communities, how our people are living, or how the COVID-19 is impacting on persons with disabilities. So thank you very much. I wish that in the future, if we have such engagement, we'll converge in the manner that we have done today and contribute effectively so that our voices are heard and they are looked into and actioned. Thank you very much. May the Lord bless us all.
Thank you. We just need 5 minutes before we can do some closing remarks as the UN. My colleague had meant to share a video, but I think he stepped out and he will be back soon. So please give us a few minutes, 1 or 2 minutes to play that video, and then we'll do closing remarks and we'll take our picture. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. We are struggling with the audio of the video, so we will move ahead and have our resident rep give her closing remarks before we go into taking a group picture. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. I went to a place where I couldn't delegate any of you to go on my behalf. So sorry for the wait. I have enjoyed my time with all of you this morning. It has been an exceptional opportunities to learn more about persons with disabilities, your challenges, but also your hopes and your vision for the future. And I said for all the ones who came here, for me, you didn't give presentations. You spoke with your heart. These were actually testimonies, and that's what I will take away with me. Thank you very much for sharing those ones with me and with all of us and possibly the world. I would like to mention a few things. You may be surprised, why did I bring my laptop here? And I thought that I would share this with you, hopefully, as an inspiration on how far a number of persons have gone with their own disabilities. And for me, it's a message of hope. And when we were speaking about where we will be in 2045, hopefully some of you will be there. And I took the one that has been called the greatest nation in the world. Do you know that many United States presidents, USA presidents had a number of disabilities? If you don't know, let me give you a list of them. President Clinton, did you know that he had a hearing impairment? He was wearing hearing aids. President Eisenhower had learning disabilities, and this is one who led the victory of the Allied forces during the Second World War, but he had learning disabilities. Then you have Thomas Jefferson, learning disability as well. You had John Kennedy, that we all know quite well for different reasons, learning disabilities and chronic back pain. You had President Lincoln. He had mental health issues, major depression. Madison, epilepsy, a president of United States. Ronald Reagan, hearing impairment, and so on. And I think that it's important to give you that, and I'm sure that we could look here in Africa and elsewhere to realize that disability is not a curse. We have people who have reached the top of the world with disabilities such as some of the ones that we discussed today. And this is one of the messages that I would like you to take back home, either for you as you sit here, or for your children, or for those who are under your care and who may be struggling with a few disabilities. There are opportunities. Now, I heard you, and I took lots of notes. I don't know where to start from, but I heard what you said, and I want to thank you all for not only coming here today, but for the kind words that you said about the UN, and also the hope that you seem to place in us in bringing the transformation that you want to see in Eswatini. We will try to live up to your hopes, your expectations. Let's remember that in everything we are guests in Eswatini as we are guests in other countries. We come with our offer for assistance, but ultimately we are guided by national leadership, national ownership, and also the respect for the sovereignty of every country. So we will do our utmost. My colleague mentioned earlier cooperation framework, UNSDCF for 2021-2025. We are now preparing, and it's close to completion. Hopefully that instrument will be signed at the end of August. We are making a proposal to the people of Eswatini represented by the government and the parliament, and we say for the next 5 years in Eswatini, this is what the UN family offers you. This is what we believe will help you in closing the gaps, and in particular the gaps on your development agenda. Those gaps are in social protection, which is you and all what you have mentioned. Those gaps are in the economic recovery of Eswatini. Those gaps are on climate change, environment. And we come with our proposals, and obviously we will have to come up as well with the funding and the financing for 5 years. So we have been holding consultations since 2019. We started actually in October 2019 with consultants meeting, including at the regional level, not only in the Hoho region in Babane, but meeting a number of groups. Possibly some of you were consulted, and I will think so, and I will hope so, in addition to the development partners, in addition to the government, in addition to the private sector, to ask them what they want to see for 2021-2025. We have adjusted our plan to actually cater for COVID-19. Coronavirus, we hadn't envisaged it in 2019 when we started the process. So we had to make some adjustments. So I heard you, it's never too late, but I believe that most of what you have mentioned appears in particular under the outcomes on social protection. You mentioned here that there is a need to strengthen the DPMO office capacity building. You have mentioned severally, a few times, the voices of persons with disabilities shall be heard from them, by them. Their voices should be heard. And someone said something to the effect that decisions made for persons with disability without their presence are actually against them. There is no decision that shall be made on your behalf, otherwise those decisions do not adequately represent you. You mentioned, you asked us to look at the existing policies and ensure that they are implemented. In particular, the Disability Act. Implementation of all acts, policies, and bills. The Disability Act could be actually the one that will unlock all the challenges and all the barriers and the problems that are faced at present. Resources. Someone mentioned the resources shall be used, the resources in particular when they are contributed by us, the UN, and other partners, shall be used for what and where they were meant to be used. They cannot be used for anything else, and that we should exercise more monitoring of evaluation of those resources. You mentioned that there should be seats in parliament and in cabinet for persons with disabilities. I was concerned, but I understand where you come from, when a vast majority of you said that the future could be worse. The future could be worse, but I like the fact that you mentioned that it could be worse if the UN doesn't do A, B, C, D. So we will look into your recommendations, including to help the organization, at least structurally, so that they can also be considered when there are grants, when there are opportunities for persons with disabilities. You also ask on a few occasions sharing of information with you directly, and in particular in those times of COVID-19. And also we shall ensure that the needs of people with disabilities are looked into, access to medication for those with diabetes. And I know too well what you are talking about. My mother has diabetes, and my mother had her leg amputated because of diabetes. so I'm very much aware of the challenges. Access to food, access to education. At this stage, I must say that I was a bit surprised because in other groups, we heard, in particular when they were projecting themselves in 25 years, gender equality. I didn't hear much of it here. Is it a minor issue for you, or is it that gender equality has already been attained in your views? Education for all, I didn't hear that much. Again, in 25 years, it may no longer be about us. It will be about our children, the next generation. I didn't hear much about peace. Is it something to which you aspire? I know that I do. Justice for all. Non-discrimination. Social protection. Employment, job opportunities. This is what we heard elsewhere. We heard also access to land for each and every one of you. We heard food security in Eswatini. And me, because I know that this would be something in which I would be looking very closely, incentive for the private sector to make space for persons with disabilities. And I have already mentioned to my colleagues, UN, that it starts with us. We need in our recruitment to have more persons with disabilities. And I think that it should be the same for the private sector. If it requires incentives, maybe that's something that should be advocated for. But definitely, this dialogue was an eye-opener for me. It's a breakfast dialogue, the first of its kind, but I expect after all the good points that were made here today, and I see that there is a willingness, eagerness to speak even more, that we will organize more dialogues of this type. We are in a listening mode, and we will continue to listen to you, but beyond listening, hopefully we will be able to take action, and the first action would be to have that Disability Act that all of you seem to ask, that Disability Act being implemented, operationalized. I thank you for your comments. I thank you for your candid remarks, and I look forward to our next breakfast dialogue or meeting. Thank you so much.
With that, we've come to the official end of our meeting today. Again, I would like to pass my sincere appreciation for your very, very thoughtful engagement and feedback and conversations that you brought into the dialogue today. And I'm sure that some of the points that you've raised are points that can be worked on. Also there are points that can be passed on to the relevant authorities. Even though this was for the UN75, it's been very, very useful for us. So thank you so much. This is going to be the last that I'm up here, but my colleague Erin will show us what to do next. And my colleague Sibusiso has just also passed out some registration forms that will be very useful if you fill them in so that we keep track of who was here with us today and we get your contact information. But thank you so much. Is there a question? When will be the next dialogue? This year, in 2020, I can say that, but I cannot confirm yet what date it is. However, I've been trying to give out my business card to the different groups that are here, because perhaps we don't need to have a big dialogue as the next thing, but we can have meetings with individual organizations just to get a bit more deeper into the issues. So I'm not sure, sir, which organization you come from. Physical, okay. We should probably get in touch so that we can see how we can meet to discuss any other issues while we plan for another dialogue towards the end of the year. Thank you. I will hand over to my colleague Sibusiso. Thank you so much.
She's been taking care of us since the morning. It's 12:30. There are a few announcements that I would like to make, logistical announcements that I would like to make as we close. One is lunch. Can I ask to